Welcome back. You're watching the Power Breakfast Show. This morning in studio we're joined by Mr. Charles Ringera. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Higher Education Loans Board, and we want to talk about HELB, trying to understand who they are, what they do, who benefits from them, the challenges that they face as well. And should you be having any questions for him in regard to this conversation, 22422 is the SMS line, or you can get us on Twitter. The hashtag is Power Breakfast. Mr. Ringera, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And maybe we can start by understanding how HELB works. Who are you targeting? How many students are you targeting a year?
Okay, thank you, Kerigo. Higher Education Loans Board was started around 1995. CAP 213A was actually came into effect on July 21st, 1995. Hitherto, of course, there were other bodies like what was called HELB, Higher Education Loan Fund, which was started even before independence, yes. and that was part of the colonial government in terms of affirmative action on putting up more education. Remember, our spirit in terms of getting our independence was to fight illiteracy, disease, and poverty. And disease was, education was one of them that the government was putting in place for transformation aspect. Come independence days, what happened is it was then transited into a desk within the Ministry of Education. Okay. And it became actually very formalized around 1970s when loans were then given. Now, unfortunately, during the 1970s, not many people knew that those were actually loans. So you can come to either National Bank or KCB and just sign somewhere that you have taken money, but you may not know that there were loans. But if you look at the agreement, above where you are signing, it actually said it was a loan. And it was a challenge for government in terms of recovery of that loan. And come 1995, the government then saying, let's make this a body, a state corporation. And that's why the CAP 213 then was, formulated. Okay. And it became effective on, 21st of July 1995. Of course, since then, HELB has grown. Today we have educated about 526,000 graduates. It has costed the state about 60 billion. If you look at the total statistics that we have in the country today, we have about 3 million graduates in this country. Those are the estimates that we have. Out of that, then you can say a quarter really has gone through the Higher Education Loans Board process. And out of that, we got a big number. Who have actually repaid. We have about 112,000 good Kenyans who have repaid their loans. That's about 12 billion, which has now come back. And then you have another 20 billion which is in school. We are currently supporting 209,000 students in TVET colleges and also universities. TVET is the technical and vocational institutions where we have quite a big number again there, but you can't compare with what is in for undergraduates. Okay. Undergraduates forms the biggest part, which is about 170,000, and that carry about 20 billion. Then those who can,
who might have listened to you say that and say, wow, the numbers are a bit low, the numbers of people who are being sponsored, and knowing that majority of Kenyans are said to live below the poverty line, are there any plans to increase the numbers, or for now you're comfortable, you also don't want to stress yourself as an institution? Now,
the way we select our students is what we call the MTI process, or means testing instrument. HELB is made for the vulnerable economically. So there is a high likelihood that my kid will not be on the loan program. One, because of again what you were talking about, poverty. So there is a way we calculate the students who require to require our intervention using our means testing instrument, and it's now proved that the means testing instrument is actually working. So when the students are actually applying, we ask a number of questions, and those questions are used for their pre-scoring facilities. And so if you look at the numbers that we are supporting, is like a third of what is in higher education. We've got about 600,000 now students in higher education. We support about 200,000 of those. That's about a third of thereabouts. If you look at a strategic plan that we have put in place, we're looking at moving that 19% support that we are currently giving to about 36% of what we are giving. So yes, we are ambitious. We want to get more students on the loan program. We want to get more students to access higher education, but that can only happen as we continue to collect more money from past loanees, and also do other sophisticated ways that we are using in terms of fundraising process.
In how long do you plan to do the movement from 19% to 36%?
By 2018, our target is to hit 36%.
Okay, so 2018, another 2 years, you should be at least sponsoring about 36% of undergrad students. Okay. According to your website, you also finance Kenyan students who study abroad, right? Yeah,
not abroad as in abroad. Remember, part of the constitution that was passed in 2010, section Article 43F gives a right to everybody in terms of education, and the state is supposed to finance that. The question is affordability. So as part of EAC agreement, we then we said about in 2010 that we can start progressively to start funding the students who are at least in East Africa. So today you will find our students all over all the universities around East Africa. Uganda, big contingent, Rwanda and Tanzania.
So it is East Africa.
East Africa so far. But we have plans, of course, as per the constitution, to blow it up to the entire world. If you are Kenyan, then the state needs to see how they can be able to fund it.
To help me.
Yes.
The uptake of the loans, across the universities has been fantastic. We see quite a number of students applying every year. But we have seen students in technical institutions not taking up the facilities they have, and if I'm not wrong, they are located I think about 300 million per year. What do you think is the reason that we are not seeing students in technical centers, institutions taking up these loans?
You're right, Kirigo, and it's actually concerning the board, and the board we had a board meeting this week, and again the board is very concerned about the uptake of students in Tibet. But I think generally the problem is between you and me, the Kenyan. I don't know when was the last time I sat down with my son to tell him, rather than the degree, this technical science can give you a better job. We've done a bit of simulation, and we are now funding big in KMTC, nursing students who are pursuing their nursing courses. And why the board was informed by that is that if you look at the employability rate of a technical student, is about 98% within the first month of graduation.
Yes.
If you look at the employability rate of a graduate within the first year of graduation, is about 60%. So if you are a lender, between you and me, you know where to put your your money in terms of that money coming back quickly. So I think Kenyans, we have a historical issue in terms of how we look at the technical courses. But for me, my main message is, if you look at the gap in terms of technical graduates who can be able to do something for electrician, plumbers, masonry, that number is really low given the amount of infrastructure development that is actually going on here. So we need to get another way of rebranding this TVET area, and if you rebrand TVET area, we should see a bit of uptake. We've seen a small increase on our side. Last 2 years ago, we have been using about 300 million for that section. This year, I think we'll be spending upward of 400 million in terms of that TVET. But remember also the government Marshall Plan in terms of putting in more technical colleges in various constituencies that they're actually doing. If that happens, then we hope there will be more population going to those colleges. And when that population goes there, they will then come for intervention from our side. In fact, one of the key things that people don't know, if you look at university, we cover about, our loan covers about, 20% of your fees.
Yes.
But for technical, we cover anything like 80% of their fees. So for you, it's just to make up your mind to go to technical. Once you go to a technical college, money is actually available for you to progress. So you agree the narrative needs to change, that technical institutions are actually institutions that are of value, that bring some sort of revolution, quote unquote, to the country. You do believe that? Sure. Yeah, they are of importance. We are convinced fully that that's the way we need to go. Okay. Yes. All right. And I just want to ask, someone has sent a message, and this is, they're trying to understand, how you pick your students. Maybe you can explain to her. I'm Victoria. I did my KCSE last year, and I had a B plane. I'm an orphan, and I really don't know how to go about and apply for the loan. So exactly how does it happen? Is there an office I walk to? Are there forms I need to fill? What forms do I need to come with? Yeah. Thank you, Kirigo. For Victoria, first of all, of course, you must be selected to join a public university. Once you are selected, you get a letter of admission. Using the letter of admission, you then go to HELB website and you populate your loan application form with all the requirements. One of the key things that will be required, of course, is your national ID. Then, of course, your admission letter. Guarantors have to sign some forms that we will actually put there. Guarantors are your parents, because those are the ones who will be asking how much, what is the economic household income and all that.
But in the case that she's an orphan, she says she's an orphan, and I really don't know how to go about it.
But there's somebody...
Her guardian.
Somebody has been guarding her, and those are the guardians that actually then sign off for her. But before we even come to the guardian aspect, there is a lot that we require in terms of that population. How old are you? When did you do your KCSE? What mark did you get? What was your index number? And we look that for that information for purposes of building your KYC profile.
Okay.
And once we do that KYC, then it helps us in terms of our means testing instrument thereafter.
All right. There's Ron Mativo on Twitter who says, I want to inquire if the board is giving loans to students in private universities.
Yes, again, as I said, for someone like Mativo, what we did about 8 years ago, before even the new constitution said, section 43 of saying it's your right, whether you are reading in a private or a public university, it is your right to actually access government funding. We were already there before even that came to fruition, and we've been supporting now. We support all the universities as long as they have already been registered or authorized by Commission of University Education.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the disbursement of funds. We have seen, that it poses some sort of challenge to you as HELB, and it's sometimes used as a reason by the university students who go on strike. HELB is, has not released our money. HELB is delaying our money. How are you managing this? How do you plan to manage this in the future?
A very important question for us in terms of, having a challenge on how we actually fund the student. And at times we are never understood how we do our funding aspects. Remember, Kiriko, what happens is that we are funded by two main sources. One, loan recovery, and then the next one we are funded is through capitation of states. Now, taxes for states are never collected at once in July. So, for example, you must have seen now from the printed estimate that HELB will be funded up to the tune of about 6.6 billion next year. However, 6.6 billion does not come in July. 6.6 billion will come during the period of the year. In fact, the term capitation from state means the money will be capitated over a 12-month period. Loan recovery is also, once people graduate, we don't record the entire 200,000 or 300,000 that we have funded them. We require them to pay over the next 10 years. So it means every month a small quantum is coming through. So today we collect about, on loan recoveries, we collect about 300 million month on month. So that we collect all that 300 million and make the 4 billion per year and put it together so that you can be able to fund the students. Now look at our academic cycle in terms of our timetable. All the universities open in September. And everybody in September requires money. So by September, maybe the only money that I will have collected is about 1 billion shillings. By September, I require about half of 10 billion, about 5 billion to be able to fund. So those are some of the gaps that the bodies are trying to look at. What other alternatives can we look at in terms of managing our cash flow? And one of them, of course, is to build a war chest. By the time September comes, we have a war chest even before maybe state comes in to be able to fund us. And with that war chest, then we can be able to fund the students seamlessly. But also the other thing is to try to see whether we can be able to harmonize the national opening day for universities. And we're working very closely with the Commission of University Education to see whether we can have one single date for as a national opening date for all universities, like it happens in most of the other countries.
Yes. Okay. Someone has a point, an opinion here. HELB should be creative enough to sustain loan repayment. What of negotiating with carry that students paying HELB to pay half of income tax? That's someone's thought process. Then there's someone else who says, what happens to an individual who completed university more than 10 years ago and recently got employment, and his accrued loan and interest is more than 4 times the principal?
Let me start with the last question. If the loan has accrued, remember, Cap 213 section 15 requires that if you don't service your loan, then I charge your account 5,000 shillings. That is on top of the 4% that is statutorily supposed to be charged. Now we know that given the unemployment levels, that amount can quickly increase. If we are given you 200,000, within a year you find that you have now 260,000. Within the next year you have you're in 320, and within a short time then you'll be at 500. One of the key things we have given is, come we discuss. and HELB cares, and we take time to understand why whatever happened. And if there is a reasonable cause of why that happened, then we are ready to discuss the penalty waiver. And currently, we are actually, like the diaspora, candidates, loanees, we are giving up to 80% of that penalty waiver. So again, people should not shy away. You should not run away, because when you run away, then you make things worse.
Yes.
Let's come, we discuss, and we have a full, department which looks at debt management in terms of understanding what was your problem, how much can you now afford, how long do you think we should be in this debt, as we even encourage you to take another loan as you look for your postgraduate.
Postgraduate.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of, well, not to say anger, but a lot of people say that HELB is very biased. This is because many students face a loan while others receive boom plus a loan. There's someone else who even gives a personal account and says, my daughter Christine is now 4th year semester 1 BSc supplies and procurement and are disabled and has been denied very many times. Why is this? New Baguzi. Then there's someone else, harassment, tribalism, and who is what happens in that office. I'd want you to respond to these claims before we can move on, because like I said, quite a number of SMS is coming in.
Yeah, thank you. And it's unfortunate if we've been seen like we are biased in terms of how we give the loan. And let me give you some statistics, maybe that will help. In this year that will be closing in June, we earned about 62,000 applications. Out of those 62,000 applications, we'll be funding 60,000, applicants. That means we have a success rate of about, 92 or thereabout %, and that's quite high. Now, for the people where we decline the loan, as I said, it's a means testing instrument. We look at the amount available and how vulnerable you are economically in society. So it means that somebody who has been denying the loan, chances are that maybe he is better off in society than the other person. However, for someone like a person living with a disability, I would really be very keen, to follow on that case.
Okay.
We are currently heavy on social media, so if that person could actually drop on our HELB page on Twitter and give the ID number, we'll want to follow particularly the one living with a disability, because those ones are almost like automatically, they automatically qualify. All
right. So Hamaton Kazungu, there you have it from Malindi. Kindly get in touch with the HELB on Twitter, on Facebook, and they'll be able to help you and your daughter Christine. All right. There's someone else here who has good words for HELB and says, this is K Joy. HELB gave me the opportunity to achieve my career. I will forever be grateful to it. So there is someone who's happy about what you're doing. 2 questions have come in, and they say, can one apply for a HELB loan without an ID, considering students are joining university immediately after Form 4, some without an ID? Then another one, does it mean that if a student admitted to public university does not have a national ID, cannot access HELB loans?
Yeah, national ID is a big story for us. Now, the problem we have in this country is something called the law of contract. The law of contract is that you cannot enter into a contract with a minor. Yes. If you enter a contract with a minor, then it is null and void from the day you entered it. And so the loan agreement is actually a contract. So it requires a national ID. You must be of age of majority. But what we have done is that we extend for the ones who are almost on the pipeline of almost getting an ID. Last year, for example, out of the total 520,000 who did their KCSE, we had only 3,000 who did not have IDs and they wanted the loan. But what we did, we extended the application up to December, so that they can be able to pick their ID and then they can be able to apply. However, if you don't have an ID, it is not possible for us to be able to enter that contract, because if we enter the contract, then it is null and void.
Yes.
There are several suggestions of birth certificate, but we are saying once the law of contract is changed, then even HELB won't be able to change. But again, if you look at the Basic Education Act, which has now come through, where you cannot be able to access Basic Standard 1 before the age of 7, then it means for sure, by the time you arrive at university, you must be of age of majority.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people also asking, do you give loans to PhD students studying in Machakos? And then there are those who are asking, do you give loans to already employed individuals? And if so, how does that happen? What's the repayment mode?
Once again, someone like Judy, I invite her to look at our website. We have all those products. We have postgraduate products, we have a master's product, and particularly when you're working, it's much easier for us. Once we look at the, at where we'll be recovering our source of what we fund you, that's very interesting for us. For example, if you look at the cost of PhD in this country is about maybe $1 million. We give about 600,000 out of that. So it's a big winner for you if you really want to pursue your PhD. Your masters, we are giving all the way up to about 400,000, 500,000, and that should be able to cater for your masters.
Yeah,
yes. So yes, we have those products on board, and I would want anybody who is interested, get on our website. The application is on the website. You fill it, and then you can be able to fund it.
But those who are saying, okay, thank you very much for helping us, but then there's the issue of repaying, or rather the issue of me paying excess and then HELB taking very long to pay me back. You get what I'm asking? There are those who are saying, why is that? Why do you take long to refund money somebody paid in excess? This is I found the SMS. Keep in Machakos.
Very interesting. We are supposed to refund instantaneously, but then let's look at the problem. The problem is, why should we go into excess? Because one, the employer continues to deduct even beyond the repayment. So if you look at the program, for example, you have worked with TSC. 3 months into completion of the loan, we write to TSC and say, in 3 months, please stop any further deduction.
From Kirigo's account.
Yes, from Kirigo's account. And that is what we are working with employers, so that we can cure the problem at source. But in any other instance, what we do is that we do the verification process. Once you fill the refund form, we do the verification process, and we are promised that within 21 days, we shouldn't be able to refund the money. The problem we have is at times the queue becomes very long, and because of that, then it interferes with our SLA of 21 days.
Of the payment plan. Okay, quite a number of SMSs come. Non-loanee for HELB, erroneously deductions done. Refund has been extremely difficult. To us from HELB office and my county payroll office. This is Sami in Vihiga. So I'm assuming he's being deducted, yet he did not have a loan.
I'm not sure how that could have happened, but at times it could be an accident between your employer and because it's your employer really who decides whether to deduct or not. One of the key things that employers need to watch out is that once they engage a person, you are supposed to check with the loans board whether that person actually benefited from the loan, and you are not supposed to start deducting until you prove that actually that person was able to benefit from the loan. And once you prove that that person then benefited from the loan, we'll give you what we call a bill. That bill, then you use it for deduction, and continuously we should be able to give you how the statement is running down. After all, if you get on our website now, you can actually be able to check how your statement is running down. So it's unfortunate that has happened, but that should be a conversation between the employer and ourselves. And if you can again get on our, we have a full-fledged contact center, whether by telephone, whether by social media, and you should be able to sort them out. And one of the key things, Kirigo, I say, you don't have to visit anniversary towers. We have a very high response rate today, and anybody who is willing maybe to write me an email to test that, you can do ceo@helb.co.ke. I shouldn't be able to respond to you within hours of that email. Yes.
All right. Now, we talked about the initial group that got the loans back in the 70s, and we have someone here who has sent us a message. Please note that the first loan takers of 1975 who remained in their initial jobs, especially with the TSC, did pay through check-off system. When we presented our pay slips, some of us, the pay slips were disputed and were made to repay with interest. Does this mean your records are inaccurate? And he goes ahead to ask, who will refund my 23,000 I was paid to get cleared? This is Mugoi, all the way in Kisii.
For Mugoi, I agree. There are situations where you find that the schedules were able to arrive from TSC, but those schedules were not applied on our loan system. One, because again they were either delayed, or the amount of money, the money recovered was actually delayed in terms of arriving at the board. But I would be curious from him to get that payslip, because once we get the payslip, it gives us it gives us a lead of when the person was actually repaying. We go for those schedules, we recover that money from wherever it is, and then we are able to apply in his or her account. So again, I would want to see an extract of that payslip, and then we can be able to follow up on why we have gone ahead and recovered when he had already paid. In terms of refund, again, you don't have to visit our Education Loans Board. You have got a form for claiming back your refund on the website. Kindly complete that form and then scan the form and send it to us. Again, I've given my email, and also there is an info email, which is a general contact center email. If you send it through there, we should be able to process, and will be responsive enough in terms of discussing with you how far we are and what we are doing, or whether the refund is actually valid or it is not valid.
Are the HELB activities decentralized, or do we all have to come to Nairobi?
No, you don't have to come to Nairobi, Kirigo. What we have done is that through Huduma Kenya, we're now in 20 stations across the country, and we are offering full set of services in those Huduma centers. So you don't have to come to Nairobi at all. Beyond, of course, our internet, which we think our website is working very well in terms of responding. We have a contact center, which you don't have to come there again. But the the Huduma centers across the country are actually a good enabler in terms of giving people service across the country. Okay,
Mr. Ringera, someone is just asking, please review the fine of 5,000 per month to maybe a year to reduce the pain loanees are going through and to align it to the objectives, because he says it is unjust. Is it justifiable to fine a poor unemployed student 5,000 shillings per month? And to all those who are asking all these questions, we have already talked about them. Of course, like you said, they can get you on social media or on email, CEO at HELB,
yes,
if I'm not wrong. There's someone who has asked a very interesting question. His name is Edwin Ayugi, and he says he's finished his undergraduate degree and wants to proceed for his master's immediately. Now he's asking, does HELB expect him to pay his first loan before giving him another loan, or is there a way they can merge both loans and then he pays now later?
Now, a very interesting one, and that's what we are saying. You can carry a basket, a number of products from HELB, but then look at the conditions for funding of masters. For funding of masters, I need you to be employed somewhere so that that person then pays, your employer then pays to me directly. If you're already employed somewhere, we will be able to fund you for masters. Meanwhile, of course, you're in good status because you're already repaying your undergraduates. So it is true you can run the two products at the same time, as long as the conditions are then met. Yes,
I get you. Okay, as we're coming to the end, we want to talk about alternative funds that we had discussed a bit earlier. This is HELB trying to look for more funds to support the system. Maybe you can tell us more about it?
Yeah. If you look at the funding, currently we have a balance sheet size of about 48 billion. That 48 billion is actually about 98% state funded. One of the key things in terms of our strategic plan is, for the next 5 years, we've looked at how else can we be able to generate extra funds, outside there, and that will help us in terms of ameliorating the challenge that we have in terms of funding. And so the board decided, let's go out there and see an individual who is ready to fund HELB. So today I'm very happy to tell you, Kirigo, that we've got individuals who are funding HELB directly. So they say HELB transformed their life, they are happy about it, and here is our money, here is my 1,000 shillings to fund another student. That account now we have grown it to about 2 million shillings, where people individually have come through. We've also gone to corporates. And corporates are, heavily funding us. We have a long list of various corporates who are funding us to be able to support our education. And so that is again helping us in terms of building, our capital in terms of funding students. Then we have gone to devolve funds. We have now about 9 constituencies where we are managing their funds on a revolving basis.
Okay.
We have about 4 counties. In fact, tomorrow I will be in Kakamega, will be launching their revolving fund. We have already funded about 2,000 students at a total cost of 20 million. So we'll be launching their fund. We have signed with Busia County, we have signed with Taita Taveta County, and all these are trying to build a revolving fund.
Yes.
And for us, because we are superior in terms of making a fund revolve, that is why we come in handy for for the counties. We are also in the space of development partners. We are currently heavily funded by USAID in terms of the nurses program that we are running. USAID has given us about 300 million shillings, and the state has given another 300 million shillings, and we have put all that together through what we call the Funds of Kenya program to support the Afya Elimu Fund. So yes, we are playing around with a number of funding partners who are helping us in terms of mobilizing more resources to be able to take most Kenyans to higher education.
Okay. HELB is doing a good job, but I disagree with the statements on the websites. They're not up to date. Mine was last updated in February 2016 as for yesterday, so there you have it. There's a problem there. Then there's someone else who says, how do you handle rogue employees who deduct but delay remitting to HELB, leading to huge penalties on me, the student?
A good one. Once we prove that somebody has actually recovered money from an employee and has not remitted that money, Section 15, subsection 2 says that I follow up and prosecute the employer. And currently we have about 15 corporates we are trying actually to prosecute because they recovered money and they did not remit. And once we prove that, we then go back to the loanee account and are able to reverse the 5,000 shillings, which is actually charged on a monthly basis as per subsection 15, section 1. Which says that goes to the employee, but subsection 2 goes to the employer. And if we find that you're actually culpable, we will drag you, to court.
Okay. Yes. Bwana CEO, I like the way you have swiftly responded to the queries and your proper articulation of facts. Your job, keep it up. That's anonymous. Bwana Ringera, thank you very much for joining us this morning on the Power Breakfast Show. Thank you for helping us understand who HELB is, what they do, and we wish you all the best as you continue helping the many Kenyans who seek an education. You're watching the Power Breakfast Show. Don't go too far.